to everyone. One more week. Surprise, I'm here with you again. I thought, well, we all thought this session was going to be facilitated by Leslie Ann Edwards, but she had a technology problem. Surprise, right? And so it's going to be me, Vanessa, again with you from Spain. And we, as always, have Fernanda helping from and coordinating everything from Washington, D.C. Okay, so this session we're going to see, it's going to be our last. We're going to talk about human resources and most of all about how to monitor and control the project, because that's where your interest is in. And most of the questions were focused on monitoring and control. Okay, let's see what you asked. Here it is. Okay, yeah, we had so you see here we don't have question 1 or question 2. Why? Well, because we had many questions about earned value or around the earned value concept. But some of them were about the exercises, and we cannot reply to that because you still need to do those exercises, right? So, oh wow! Leslie's back. She managed. Okay, so give us 1 second because we're going to switch roles because this is, in fact, Leslie's session, and she's going to be with you as the lead expert. I'll be behind the scene working with you on your live questions. So please start thinking about your live questions, and I'll be here helping Leslie with everything. Bye-bye. See you in a while.
Yes. Thank you very much, Vanessa. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Leslie Ann Edwards. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties at the start. I work at the IDB as the Chief of Operations in our office in Suriname, South America. As Vanessa had started, the first question, which relates to earned value, we are hoping to provide an explanation. Now, the concept of earned value is one of the fundamentals to grasp in your understanding of project performance and being able to control and monitor your project performance. Earned value, the concept, really rests on what you have budgeted to spend and the outputs that you expect to complete during the course of the project. I will give a very simple example. There is a 4-month project to build 4 houses. Each house is expected to cost $10,000, and 1 house per month is expected to be completed. Now, at the end of 3 months, if you would like to determine what the earned value is, and you have seen that only 1 house has been built, what then is the situation? It means that your earned value after 3 months of time elapsing on the project is in fact $10,000 US, because only 1 house has been completed at the budgeted cost of $10,000. This, by eyeballing the situation, really means that you are behind schedule. Of course, you can calculate the specific schedule performance index to determine exactly what that is. Now, we will like to move directly to the next question, which deals with change control. The question asks, can you give an idea about how actual costs, actual costs change control system could look like? The response? Good. Now, I think there's an error. This question relates to CPI, calculating the CPI and explaining what it is all about. Now, if you calculate your CPI, and which is your cost performance index, which takes your earned value over your actual cost, and the result is less than 1, it means that you are over budget. It means, for example, if your CPI is 0.66, it means that at that point in time, you have only received 2/3 of the value that you had expected to receive at that point in time. Of course, if the CPI is greater than 1, it means that for each dollar that you have spent, a value greater than 1 has been incurred. Ideally, your CPI should be 1. For each dollar you spend, you expect to have gained a value of $1 worth on the project. We can move to the next question. The question asks to give an example of earned value calculation adjusting for currency and inflation fluctuations. The response: basically, since earned value is the budgeted cost of completed work at a specific date, it does not take into account other factors such as inflation or currency fluctuations. Earned value is not a result that is adjusted for such factors. Let's take a look at the next question. This question is very interesting. It asks for some advice for young project managers, persons that are up and coming in the project management profession. Well, as a not so young project manager myself, but I was once in that situation. I have been working on projects all of my life, all of my working life for the last 15 years. However, as a young project manager, the advice that I would give is the following: to gain experience and knowledge actually working on a project. Most of these tools and these best practices that you would have been exposed to during this course are best practices that you can apply to most projects most of the time. And this is a direct quote from the PMBOK, which is the Project Management Body of Knowledge of the Project Management Institute of North America. So it means that at some point in time on any project that you're working on, some of these tools can be used. And my advice is to start building your professional toolkit and your comfort with working in project management by starting to apply these tools on the projects that you're working. Over time, and having been exposed to many more projects, you will see that you become to gain your confidence, and you would then be in a position where you can, in fact, also coach and mentor other persons that are coming into the profession. Good luck. Let's move to the next question. Good. This question deals with monitoring and controlling the projects, and it is basically asking what types of tools can be used, if there are risk factors, and if these tools can be used for particular kinds of projects, such as projects that are focused on capacity building. Let's look at the response. Monitoring and controlling and the tools that you have been exposed to during this course is one of the project management processes that are very important for helping project managers and project teams to understand the performance of the projects. Development projects and projects that are focused on capacity building and that may have beneficiaries across societies are very important for delivering on their expected impacts, their results, their outcomes. And as a result, the best practices in project management should apply also to development projects because it is very important to ensure that the standards that are being used in managing development projects are standards that meet the industry norms for project management, and that they are standards and best practices that we apply consistently so that our development projects can also be seen to be projects that were well planned, well executed, and delivered to the expected beneficiaries the positive outcomes that were expected. Let's move to the next question. This is a question about the responsibility assignment matrix. And we have learned in the course that one of the formats for presenting the responsibility assignment on a project is the RACI, the responsibility, accountability, consulting, and informing. Someone is asking, maybe, is there an ideal size for this? Let's look at the response. In my opinion, the RACI, which is extremely important for ensuring that good communication and reduced conflict exists within the project team so that all of the members are clear on what their roles, their responsibilities, and their daily tasks are. So a project size, which could be a combined factor of the budget, the complexity, the number of activities, the beneficiaries, the scope, etc. A project size really determines the amount of activities that are defined within the project, and therefore the amount of or the size of that project team. Now, if you have, for example, a $2 billion project to execute, you can imagine the size. There will be hundreds of persons comprising the project team. They will be co-located or virtually located, as opposed to a small project, let's say from an international multilateral for $100,000. There may be 3 or 4 key activities. You expect the project team to be a lot smaller. So it all depends on the particular characteristics of the project to determine the size of your RACI. Let's move to the next question. Again, this is a question that focuses in on development projects, asking about the project control tool and whether or not it is applicable for, let's say, a government housing project. Let's see what the response looks like. Now, as I mentioned in 2 questions before, government or development projects are projects that we expect to be held to very high standards. And this includes accountability and, as a result, project control mechanisms. Now, with government projects, change control processes should be applied as well, consistently. If there's a change in government, for example, usually the project should be revalidated with the new administration. Now, this is to ensure that there continues to be high-level political buy-in and support for the project. a new government may wish to change some aspects of the project. And if this is indeed the situation, this should go through the project control processes of approval. If the project is externally funded by a multilateral organization, it may require going back to that organization to seek approval to make the changes that the government is requesting on the project. Let's look at the next question. Again, this is a question that is asking for examples of calculating the earned value, taking into account currency and inflation fluctuations. And as I said earlier, the earned value concept, which is earned value defined as the budgeted cost of work completed, does not include in its calculation external factors that may be happening at the time of the project execution. Let's go to the next question. Good. This is a very interesting question. It's asking if we can use the extra money or savings generated on a project to do project activities. Now, from a development agency's perspective, I would say the answer is yes, and I'll tell you why. However, there is also a process, and let's go back to our change control processes. If there are savings on projects and you have extra money in the bank that will not usually be spent, let's say, you may have overestimated on some activities, or the market conditions may have brought in the price that you paid for some activities to be a little less than you had budgeted, and you have savings. Generally, you can use the savings to do activities, additional activities within the scope, the project's objectives. However, the recommendation would be to prepare a new baseline, which would be to reposition the project in such a way that you are able to manage the project activities based on what the new defined budget or additional activities would be to utilize the funding. The recommendation here, of course, is to ensure that these changes are validated in a change control process at the appropriate authority levels. You may need to have the approval of the multilateral or donor agency. You may need to have the approval of the government or of the ministry to carry out these additional activities. Please ensure that this is done before any new activities within the project's objectives are conducted. Let's move to the next question. Good. Now this question was also very interesting. This participant said that they are fascinated by the simplicity of the entire course and a little curious as to know whether the earned value and project execution plan and results-based monitoring and controlling and evaluation can be integrated. Let's see what the response is. Now, if you're talking about the project execution plan and the AOP, you're in the planning processes of the project, and you're talking about monitoring and controlling, you're looking at on the results side. Now, project planning and monitoring and controlling the project are very important integration processes in project management. The output of your project planning is your project plan, which gives you the various aspects of your budget, your scope, your risk, your communications, your procurement planning. And this is very important, and it is used for monitoring and controlling the performance of the project. By carrying out these various processes, you are in fact moving towards delivering on the project's outputs. Delivering on the project's outputs requires you to monitor and control performance to ensure that the outputs will in fact be delivered as expected at the quality within the budget on time. So they are integrated. However, in terms of having one tool to do all of this, I would say it does not quite exist as yet, but project management is evolving, and in the next few years, let's see. We have a live question, and the question asks, taking into consideration that this is the last live session, I have a question related to indicators, and they would like to get some recommended literature to help develop performance indicators for development projects. Let's see what my colleague Vanessa has put together for us. I'm just waiting for their response to that question. Oh, I would say that if you go to the website for USAID, you can also go to the IADB.org website. You would find also the World Bank. Yes, thank you for reminding me, Vanessa. You would find some literature where they have documented studies or some key aspects of project management that the institution itself has been working on. So I would suggest you visit the websites of the World Bank, USAID, the Inter-American Development Bank, the Asian Development Bank, the Islamic Development Bank, which is now becoming very active in Latin America and the Caribbean. You would be able to find some resources. Thank you very much. This is a participant extending thanks to Vanessa for all of her time and support. Vanessa, on behalf of the participants, I would like to extend this gratitude to you. And her response is, thank you. Let's see if there are any other live questions. Yes, we have one here. Yes. Now, this is a question asking about the schedule performance index. If a schedule performance index, if you have calculated the schedule performance index and the value is less than 1, it means that the project is taking longer than was planned to complete its outputs. Of course, the reverse is true. If you have a scheduled performance index that is greater than 1, it means that the project is taking less time to complete its planned activities. Now, of course, it is suggested that if your index is 1, it means that the time that you have planned to complete your activities is in fact what is being realized during project execution. Okay, we have another live question. The question relates to the responsibility assignment matrix in the form of the RACI. And the question asks, if for any reason not related to funding or scope, a team member left the organization and that vacancy is not filled, what is the recommendation to assign? Does the supervisor assign the responsibilities between the team? Does the supervisor assume those responsibilities? A very interesting question. Remember, the project manager is the leader for the project and for determining the best use of the project's human resources, given the capacities, given the skills and the experiences of the persons within the project team. Now, as a project manager, the assignment of tasks on the project should be a consultative exercise discussed with the team so that the persons who are within the team are comfortable and able to carry out these tasks. Whenever a project team member leaves, this changes the configuration of the project team, and as a result, the project team members' responsibilities should be reassigned. The best way I would suggest to reassign this, again, is consultatively with the team, looking at those persons who may be capable of taking on these tasks, and therefore those persons who have the skills and the knowledge to do so. In the interim, this may be the project manager. However, I always believe that one should pursue to have vacancies on project teams fulfilled as soon as possible. The interim measure could be a reassignment, but I suggest a long-term, more sustainable approach is to fill the vacancy as soon as you can. Okay, let's see if there is another live question. And I think we do have some more time, and we would like to invite you for the next 5 minutes to submit any live question that you may have, that we can see how best we can try to address it within this last session. And while I wait for a question to come on, a lot of times there is some debate as to whether or not the project manager, should be doing specific tasks on the project. Remember, if we quote from the PMBOK, the project manager spends over 95% of his or her time managing the project. And this means managing the human resources, managing the financial resources, and ensuring that the project is delivering as expected. So you would expect that assigning specific work tasks related to activities or components really does not fit very well within the overall role that the project manager should be carrying out, which is why I said as an interim, and we have all done it, in the short term you have had to do some other things while you work towards ensuring that your team is brought back up to its full capacity. Again, we have a question here. This is a question in the form of a thank you, again to Vanessa, thanking you for your resource on this course. Another thank you has come in for Vanessa. Vanessa, again, Vanessa is responding. Thanks, thanks, thanks to every one of you. She says she has really enjoyed the experience and she is looking forward to all that you have to carry out and to share with your colleagues and spread the word about good, best practice project management for development projects. We still have 3 more minutes. If there is anything else that you would like to submit, please do, and we will try our best to provide a response. And as a reminder, there is one small reminder message that I will share in a very short while. It's a reminder for August 16th. I am just waiting for the message to be broadcast on the screen. Yes, we have a question. The question asks if the course will be expected to be delivered in Spanish or English in the coming months. And at this point in time, for now, this is the last course. But please, oh, the response is yes, there are plans to have a course in Spanish beginning on the 28th of September. The 28th of September, 2017, the course should commence in Spanish and in English again in 2018. French will be delivered beginning in September on the 7th and Portuguese on the 19th of October, all in 2017. And English once again next year, 2018. And we will have Vanessa back with us for the Expert Live in Spanish during October of this year. Well, I believe we have come to the end of our session and for the Experts Live for this course. I would like to thank all of you and on behalf of Vanessa for being here and for enjoying the course. Spread the word. Take your knowledge out to your organizations, your agencies, and spread the word of good best practice project management using tools, skills, and knowledge bases that are industry standard and recognized. Thank you very much.